to have um, uh, Todd, Chris, and Jimmy here to share their wisdom about investments. And we're going to focus today on buy and hold, and maybe next month we can do something on flipping. So how about if we just take a couple of minutes, each one of you, and kind of tell us, Todd, we'll start with you. Tell us about, you introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been making investments and what type of investments have you made?
Yeah, my name is Todd Paxton, Paxton Group here in Southern Indiana. Been investing for 15 years now. May was 15 years. We do as much as we can. Mostly single family homes. We've done apartments. Let me pull up my notes. I actually was prepared for this, and it's kind of cool. So I want to make sure I hit everything. There we go. Apartments, we do about 12 flips a year. Single family flips. We've got single family rentals. We have had apartments. I like custom flips. I think there's actually a TV show about that now. You find a house, you fix it up for people. We just sold our cabin in the Smokies. That was our second home / VRBO. So that was really a good learning experience as well. We've got a couple small farms. We've done wholesale deals, land developments, even done some owner financing. It's just kind of, it's fun to just get into it. There's many opportunities out there, for sure.
Awesome, awesome. So Chris, how about you? You're muted. Yeah.
Yeah,
good.
sorry. We started in 2013, was the first house that we bought. And we'll get into this a little bit. I have a partnership with two other friends of mine. And so we started then. We've done so much wrong. It's awesome. I'm glad to hear from these two other guys because they will hopefully correct. Jimmy's already helped me tremendously. Just sitting for a little bit talking to him about things. And yeah, we've got a mix. I mean, it's a mix of long-term, it's a mix of short-term rentals. We've done a handful of flips. Todd, what'd you say, 12 a year? There you go, buddy.
Yeah.
We're not there yet. So anywho, yeah, I'm excited to hear from everybody else. Is there anything else that I missed there?
It's basically a type of investment. So you have rentals, short-term, long-term, nothing else, no flips, no wholesaling?
We have a flip that we're finishing up, and then we've got a commercial building that we've got to get moving on after this flip closes.
Okay, awesome. Jimmy.
Okay, Jimmy Welch team here in Louisville. I do a lot of single family holds. I also do single family flips. Don't do anything short term rental right now. Would like to get into that, but just haven't. But mainly, we'll flip. It just depends on the year. But right now, I think this year we flipped just 2 homes so far this year. Typically, we'll do about 5 or 6 a year flips. I do have a partner on some of my stuff, and then I own some of my stuff outright. I've been investing probably for about 25 years. I think my first rental home was when I was 25 or 26.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about partners. How is that working for you guys? Jimmy said you have partners. Chris, you said you have partners. I don't know, Todd, if you have any partners.
I'll talk to you about my partner. I have a partner who's a licensed home builder. We went to college together. The good thing about how our partnership works is, especially on the flips, a lot of times I would identify the properties and I'd say, hey, this has the upside. And then Keith, because he had all the contacts and he's a builder, he would basically take care of everything. And then I would sell it. And so it was a good symbiotic relationship. I'd identify it, he would fix it, I would sell it, we'd split profits. And then I flipped some homes on my own too, where, it's just, and Keith will do some on his own too. It just depends on the situation and how the lead comes about to us. Like if one of my past clients gives me a home, then I'm going to do that myself. But if it's something Keith and I find together, then we'll do it together. I've also wholesaled a couple deals too. But you know, I'm big into I think the hold is the way to do it. You know, I used to teach a class on difference between building wealth and generating income. And I think the smart play is to build wealth. And you build wealth through time and leverage. And my best example is this: if you had $150,000 and you want to generate income, you buy a $150,000 home, you rent it for $1,500 a month, you're making $18,000 a year. If you want to build wealth, you take that $150,000 and you buy 8 homes, you finance them, you let someone else pay the rent, pay the mortgage for you, make a tad bit of money, but over time, those 8 homes are worth a lot more than that $150,000 home you bought. So the difference between building wealth and generating income on rentals, that's why I'm a big proponent of the hold.
Awesome. How about Chris? How about you? I'm working with your partner.
I have 2 partners, and so the first flip I ever did, the first time I ever dipped my nose in investing, I bought this vanity number that probably you guys have heard, well, maybe had heard of. I got cold called. This guy just sold me straight up because I knew the product would work, but it was expensive for me at the time. This was like 2007. So this was a total one-off, right? This is not 2013 clearly when I really started, but this is a total one-off. So I buy this vanity number, and sure enough, you know, you put it on Google and the thing starts working, and I'm getting leads for, you know, people wanting me to buy their house, people wanting me to possibly list it, whatever. So I'm going out on appointments, and I got this very strange inquiry from Henry County, from this gentleman who had inherited a home there. And I don't know anything about eminence. I don't know about you guys, but anyway, it was so weird because he didn't have a phone and he would only communicate via email. And so I kind of was like, I'm going to partner, even though, you know, so I kind of like jumped into the partner deal because I was a little bit uncertain as to what this meeting was going to look like. I kind of felt like I should probably take somebody with me. And so we go out there, we look at this house, and I mean, it was a cracker box, tiny little house. But yeah, and of course the guy thought it was worth 40,000. And I'm like, man, it's probably worth 20. But anyway, we drove away, and I contacted the guy and just said, look, I'll set you up with the right agent up here. I do some research for you, and you can get it sold, and you'll get, you know, you're going to make 4 times as much as I'm going to offer you. And of course he emails back and says, well, what would you offer? And I said, well, I'd offer you $5,000. And he's like, all right, I'll take it. And I was like, okay, fine. I can't do any more for you than what I tried to do. So I don't know why I'm telling you all that other than to say, I kind of got into a partnership because it was almost like a safety play, like to go up there and see some guy that I wasn't sure of. And then we just, you know, we didn't do anything for a while. We ended up selling the house, making money, true wholesale, you know, not wholesale, but a true flip where we didn't do anything to the house. And then we just kind of sat like idiots for 5 years, and then decided to get back together on a rental. And then we picked up one other partner. So ours is kind of set up. The guy that went with me on that trip, he runs a construction crew in a different kind of realm of work. So he knows his way around that kind of thing. He's got a lot of contacts with subs and people like that. And then I've got another partner who is an insurance guy. And he's good with math and numbers and money and that kind of thing. So we kind of brought him in. So we kind of work well together. We all have different kind of talents that we bring. And obviously I'm in charge of finding deals and getting them sold, getting them rented, whatever that is. And then everybody else kind of does their thing. So
Todd, how about you? Have you had any partners?
Plenty of partners. It's just like growing a team. So partners are important when you do this because I cannot do not want to go out. Jimmy's probably the same way and sell 200 homes a year. I cannot do that, or I don't want to do that. So that's why we have a sales team here. Much like with flips, it started when the flips and rentals. It started with my father-in-law in 2005. He said, "Hey, I'm kind of tired of working for other people as a contractor. Can we maybe buy a house, fix it up, and sell it? Sure. So he and I started, and then '08 happened, and the opportunities were everywhere. It was a wonderful year for investors, and it just opportunities showed up. And so I wanted to scale that. So my wife and I would get in there and do the work. And then, 5 years ago, a buddy of mine got divorced. And he said, "Hey, dude, I need a place to live." I said, "Man, you can live in my basement. That's cool." He said, "Okay, cool." And he lived in my basement. And he said, "What if you bought a house and I lived in it while I fix it up? And I just split the profits with you 35%. Dude, that's awesome." So we did probably 3 years together. And now our roofer, he and I have that same agreement. He said, "Man, I'm tired of working for this property management company in the south of Louisville. They just don't treat me very good. Can I work with you in some way, shape, or form?" I said, "Dude, that's fine. You got to learn some other trades other than roofing and decking." So we've taught him along the way. But so he gets 35% of the profits on the flips. And then I've had a couple, here and there through the years, various LLCs with some other guys be like, "Hey, let's go flip a house together." "Yeah, man, let's do that." And, it turns out well, fairly lucrative for the time. But, the relationships, just like a team, your relationships unfortunately come and go. And, you want them to stay around. You want to be in a relationship forever and as long as you can. But, as long as you are together and you have a win-win with each other, it works out really, really well. So I think partnerships are important. They really are because, for example, Matt today, he's up at the flip house in Henryville, wrapping it up this week. And then he's going to a rental that we're turning over. If I were to do that, it would take me 2 weeks. I can install doors and I can do this and that, but it's just a time factor. So when you it's just like we learned at Keller Williams through a team, the leverage part of it is just invaluable. So partnerships are huge.
So, but the important thing is that your partnerships are all working. So if newbies are looking for partners, they want to make sure that there is a trust factor and that they are comfortable with the relationship.
Yeah, right. And it's a fail forward thing. It is definitely a fail forward. You're going to have bad relationships, just like when we were in high school or college and dating. We had good relationships, we had bad relationships. You just go through that and you learn with each one. That's what kind of helped me get here.
So Jimmy, do you take title to these properties as an individual or as an LLC, or do you put them in land trust? How do you do it?
Well, if I'm getting a loan on it, I'll take it individually in my name because I'm getting a loan on it, and then I quit claim deed it to my LLC for protection. So does everybody understand the importance of that? Because when you put it in, Todd's not his head, but when you put it in an LLC, you limit your personal liability by doing that. So if you're flipping a home or something and you got to borrow money on it, of course, you're going to borrow and take title originally to your name, but then you want to flip it to your LLC. And the main reason is for protection. So if I'm paying cash for it, I can pay cash and put it in my LLC right away. Does that answer that, Santosh?
Absolutely. How about you, Todd?
I don't own anything. I think just a few years ago, we started owning our own home. A buddy of mine, he's really big into like asset protection. So we've got, I don't know, probably a dozen LLCs and they own different, I don't even own my vehicle. I think we might own the Jeep, but other than that, my sales commission company owns the Tahoe that I drive. Our LLC owns my wife's vehicle that she drives. So yes, definitely get that out of your name for asset protection early.
So Chris, do you use land trust at all?
No, we do. We have an LLC, and we really need to get another one at this point, at least one more at this point to kind of start funneling properties into there.
So one piece of info, several of my investments, Harry Borders had suggested, and my accountant agreed, that I set up 2 LLCs, one for longer term hold so that I have an easier to keep track of long-term capital gains versus some of the flip properties, they go into a different LLC. So it is a short-term capital gain. So it's just, I don't know if you guys see any benefit in something like that. Either one of you guys?
We just did that this year, actually, or 2019. So father-in-law and I have an LLC, and my wife and I have an LLC, and we ran flips and rentals out of each. Well, this year, the father-in-law LLC, we don't do a ton, so we just keep the flips and rentals in that one. But Onward Investment Group, it now doesn't do flips. We run only our rental homes through that LLC, and we created Allen Homes LLC, and that is our flip business. And then when we had the cabin in the Smokies, it was Upward Cabins LLC, a totally different state, different entity. I've heard, and I don't have a strong belief in this, that for every LLC, you should have no more than, 5 properties or $1 million in assets or whatever the case is. And I've met with attorneys and insurance and accountants, and they're like, hey, just, keep it simple. Keep your rentals in one LLC. We've got 17 properties in one LLC, and then that's okay. That's the advice I've been given. So I know there's differing theories out there, but
Anything else, Jimmy, you want to add to it?
I agree with Todd is keep it simple. I think I have 5 different LLCs right now that I keep my property in different LLCs. And I've been told the same thing that Todd's been told. The more homes you get, you don't want to have 100 homes in one LLC. So you want to separate them. And another thing too, which I think we'll touch on, is it's good to have a mentor, whether it's in real estate or whether it's in investing. So you got to have somebody kind of holding your hand and being your mentor, or somebody you can share ideas with. I sit there and, Todd and I forget where we were at, maybe Cincinnati, and just standing there together, Todd and I were sharing ideas. And I'm learning stuff from Todd about investment stuff, and we're sharing ideas. And then Chris would walk over to my office one time and say, hey, who do you use for your granite? Hey, who's your plumber? Who's your electrician? Because, you got to have a mentor, someone there who's going to, help you when you need the help, or advise you, or anything like that. And it's whether it's investment, whether it's real estate, whether it's your personal life, a mentor. And then I think the one other thing I'll say is you got to have a strategy. You got to have you got to have a guideline of why you're going to buy this home. Somebody, I happened to be on a call, and I thought it was great advice. I was on a call about a month and a half ago with Gary Keller, and somebody typed in the chat, is now a good time to buy investment properties? And I remember Gary stopped his call and said, who just wrote this message? And Gary in a very nice way told that guy it was the dumbest question he's heard. Is now a good time to buy investment properties? and what Gary said is, timing has nothing to do with investment properties. The opportunity, if it meets your requirements and your criteria of investing, that's all that matters. He says, it doesn't matter if it's 2020, 2010, it's whether or not the opportunity and criteria makes sense. So he said, don't ever talk to me about timing. It's about, and I mean, it was really cool to listen to how he thinks, because that's a great, you got to have your strategy. Is your strategy that you want to make, your investment properties want a 1-to-1 ratio? And what I mean by that, if you buy a $100,000 home, you're going to rent it for $1,000. That's a 1-to-1 ratio. So, what's your strategy? Does it meet your requirements? And the other thing too, I guess the one thing that I'd say is the biggest thing you can do is to make that first investment. Because I know, like, if Chris and Todd and I were sitting here, the first one's your hardest. It's just pulling the trigger. It's something new, something that you haven't done. And that's the big thing, is just taking that first step.
So other question for all of you guys, starting with you, Chris, for buy and hold, what price point do you normally look for? Do you have any, Jimmy is talking about having a criteria. Do you have something that you go by?
we've done that so idiotically. It's amazing. Now we've managed to battle through what Jimmy said. What I want to build on that a little bit, like having a strategy is huge. And so kind of the way that my mind works about it is, I did appraisals for 3 years, way back right around 2002 to 2005, right whenever I was getting licensed. And so it forced me to know neighborhoods like inside and out. So it forced me to know where the pockets are of what I would call maybe some opportunity versus, hey, this might not be the time to buy in this particular spot due to numbers, lack of appreciation, lack of opportunity, whatever. So I got what I think is a very good sense about kind of, what to look for and what, and then just to learn like the difference between cash flow and appreciation. And then the other piece to that is, are there areas in town where we can invest that I can get cash flow and I can get appreciation? Okay. So there are investors out there who they just want the cash flow. They're going to invest in certain areas where they're going to get the cash flow, but those houses are going to struggle to appreciate, maybe because there's too many rentals in the neighborhood or whatever. Versus, some investors that I've dealt with, they want to buy in St. Matthews at 200,000, rent it out for $2,000, let the appreciation kind of do its work, and they know that's a safe bet. I like what I wanted from the very beginning. If I did have a strategy at all, it was I want cash flow and I want appreciation. Okay, so we were buying distressed properties, primarily things that needed work, and this is where the mistakes come in. So we bought probably a couple, 2, 3 at a time that we shouldn't have, in terms of just that pace at the very beginning before we really knew what we were doing. And I don't know that we still do. But the point is, like, you can really hamper yourself if you don't know what that property is going to be when you walk in the door, right? So when I walk in the door, I want to know, are we going to rent this house long-term? Are we looking at this for a short-term rental, or are we going to flip this house? And it's got to be, you kind of want to know what you're doing right away. And then you got to figure out your mix. Like, how does this actually work? Like, if I'm going to buy 2 or 3 distressed rentals in a row where I've got to go in and do a bunch of work to them, what's that going to do to me in terms of stress level, in terms of how am I going to get paid back? Because you're putting money into a property, you're not flipping it, so you're not getting the money right away. Like, what's the right mix? So Jimmy, what you said is exactly, perfect. I know Todd would agree. I mean, having a strategy is crucial. And I think we've finally gotten to a point now where that big idea about appreciation and cash flow is a great big idea, but you've really got to get into the nuts and bolts of that so that you don't get to a place where, you feel like you're digging out of a hole. And so we are digging out of a hole now, and we're excited to be out of the hole here pretty soon. Anyway, so I would just say, I can't stress enough to figure out what you want to do. It's just like the one thing, and do it. Figure out what your one thing is and do that, and do it well. And you'll avoid some pitfalls.
So question for you, Todd. Do you find sometimes that you start out with the intention of buying something to hold, and then somewhere along the way, something happens that you are now decided to flip it, or the other way around? Have you run into that?
Yes, a lot. So our average market on the sunny side of the river, remember they used to call it the sunny side of the river, in Southern Indiana, our average sales price is $185. This year we're creeping closer to 200. So our rule of thumb for when we started was flip 2, buy 1 cash. Flip 2, buy 1 cash. Flip 2, buy 1. Flip 2, buy 1. Over and over and over. And so we had a few rental properties paid off because that was our profit. Just snowballed. And then every year we'd have to pay some tax, but we snowballed that. And then 2010 happened. Kind of like 2008 was really coming into play in 2009, 2010. And so I thought, man, there's more opportunities here. We wanted to grab more. So that's when Lisa, my wife, and I started to flip and buy and hold. And through the years, we've just developed a strategy. If we're going to keep it, I want it to be from this millennium. I want it to be 2000 or newer. And I want to, when we buy, I want to buy cash flow and equity. It's like Chris was saying, I think it's easier to buy cash flow, and it's sometimes easy to buy equity. But I want to buy both if I keep it to hold it. You can, if you're looking at enough deals, if you're looking at enough opportunities, they will be there. You just have to be selective. And when it comes up, strike like a snake. Snake's a bad analogy, sorry. Just strike real quick. There we go. So one house down here we own down by the river. I thought, hey, let's buy it and fix it up and sell it. And I thought, wait a minute, downtown Jeffersonville, kind of happening, revitalizations. And it just so happens a buddy of mine needed a place to stay. And I'm like, hey, dude, no problem. We put windows in. We did a little bit of stuff to it. And he still lives there a couple years later. It's built 100 years ago. So I think it is important, like you guys were saying, to have a strategy. However, I'm a little bit more gypsy and hippie when it comes to that if you always stay between the lines, there you may just stay there and not grow. So I've always tried to push that envelope and just explore other options. So yes, when, like Jimmy was saying, you're buying cash, you're buying profit, or you're buying wealth. And if you want profit, flip it. If you need cash, flip it. If you want wealth, keep it. So it's a tough fact.
If you can flip 2 properties and buy one, you must be making pretty good money on your flips. So Jimmy, anything else you want to add to this?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ty just put in the chat box about, do you guys ever utilize the 1031 exchange process? And I'm going to answer that real quick. Yes, we utilize the 1031 exchange process, and it's a great strategy because 1, it defers taxes, but 2, for example, like, the previous question of, do you ever flip a home and then decide to rent it? Yes, that happens all the time, but here's a prime example. I'm flipping a home. I can't remember the street. It's off Beulah Church. I'm flipping a home.
If you have any questions for me.
And I'm flipping a home, and long story short, it's going real good. And then we realized that we can sell this home for about $195,000. We don't have much in it. We're going to make a good profit, but we don't want to pay the taxes. So we take that $195,000 home and we buy 1 home on Heather Lane and 1 home on Cedar Lake. And we literally, we had a home that we probably could have rented for $1,300 a month. And then we like-kind exchange it into 2 other homes that we're now getting $2,100 a month. So that like-kind exchange can help you leverage, create more income, and defer taxes. So it's a great tool if you're investing in real estate. And so I assume Todd and Chris have like-kind exchange before. You haven't?
I have not. Hey, Jimmy, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
So you like-kind exchanged your flip, your one single family, the 195, you sold it, you took
Bought 2.
and you bought 2. That's what I meant. Okay.
Yeah, sold it and bought 2. And think about it. So the $195,000 home, and I'm drawing a blank on the street. I wish you could remember, but it's off Beulah Church by Cooper Chapel. Well, that home, I knew what it'd rent for. It'd rent for somewhere around 13, maybe 14 if I'm lucky. But we also had a lead on a home that was by Butler High School. And then, I found out that we could get that home on Butler High School and then get another lead on Cedar Lake. And I tell my partner, I'm like, listen, we can get 2 homes and come out of pocket $10,000 and have 2 homes and sell this 1 home and then get $800 more a month in rent. And so that's a perfect example of like-kind exchange into leverage. So all we did is leverage our 1 asset to get 2 and get a higher rent.
I'm going to speak a little bit to the other side of it. We've never done a 1031, and right now we have a perfect opportunity. We just sold our cabin in the Smokies, and we made 42% on it in just 2 years. So it was a prime opportunity to 1031 six-figure check. We've decided not to because we don't have, what is it? You have to identify certain properties within 45 or
45
90
days.
days and then close on them within 180.
Right.
That sounds a little restrictive to me, and we have not identified one or two properties that we want to purchase. So we're not, as of right now, doing a 1031 on it, and not a political statement at all, deferring deferring taxes till years later. We don't know what those tax rates are going to be and can control. What can we control now is our ancillary tax strategies that we're putting into place this tax year. Last year, the effective tax rate that we paid was 9% because of other taxes, other tax strategies that I had an awesome coach, Brian Gubernack and Brett Tanner, good friends of mine, and they drill in tax strategies, and man, they work. They work, and they've saved well in the 5, maybe even close to 6 digits over the last couple of years of taxes to the government. So by ancillary tax strategies and not being committed to certain properties by X amount of time, we wanted the freedom of just not worry about it. So that's a point counterpoint. I definitely see the benefit, and I've helped several clients with 1031s, and they're very valuable. Just the unknown of the future is also kind of a concern. And I think with investors, I don't know about you two guys, but I think most people are, you get 100 people, 50 are one way, 50 are another. Just like, I'll just pay the taxes now and not worry about it. But either way.
Right.
I would
Go
just say too, not to do with the 1031, but I think what we're hearing is like just how flexible these investments are. And that's what I love about real estate. Say what you want about Dave Ramsey, you love him or hate him, but what he says about real estate is it's a flexible asset that is never going to be worth zero. And when the market is really hot and it's time to flip and sell, or maybe you bought that one that you thought you're going to rent, now you got to flip it because it makes sense. The beauty of real estate is you have that freedom. And I can't tell you how flexible it is coming through this crazy 2020 year with, a fairly heavy investment in short-term rentals, where that market pretty much dried up on us overnight. So anyway, flexible means go buy one today, take your equity in your home. You've got comps in your neighborhood that you've never had in your life. If you haven't gotten started on this, go get a daggone refinance, get your HELOC and go buy something. I'm telling you. Anywho.
Money's free right now. Money's free.
So let me touch on something else for the newbies who not made any investments, and they are thinking about it. And there are always these concerns about finding tenants. Middle of the night phone calls about clogged toilets and so forth. You have management issues. You have maintenance issues. How do you guys handle those, Jimmy? How do you deal with all of that?
So I used to manage all my properties, and then as you know, I'm flipping homes. I got my real estate team, and it got to the point where my partner and I talked about where we would split up certain homes, and he would manage a few, I'd manage a few. Then we hired a management company of homes we really didn't want to fool with, that we didn't want to drive down there or whatever it was. So I think, just say, I think we might own about 30 properties total. 10 of them are managed by a management company, and then we manage the other 20, and then we split that responsibility. The ones I own myself, of course, I manage those myself. I don't pay anybody to do it. The one thing too about tenants, I'll say this, is that's probably one of the things that is, if you spend time qualifying and screening your tenants, it'll save you a lot of headache and heartache. I think the people that, I have clients that become investors and they buy a home, and I'm trying to help them, and then they rent to the very first person who calls them, don't take an application, don't run credit, don't get check references, and then they have problems. So there's software companies out there like My Smart Move that will do a credit criminal check for it and all that stuff. But screening on the front end will save you a lot of headache on the back end.
How about the properties that you are managing yourself? How do you take care of maintenance issues?
Well, the other thing too is we're pretty proactive. Like if I buy a rental home or investment property, you know, I want it to be in the condition that will prevent calls. And what I mean by that is, you know, I want the HVAC to be in good shape. I'll have my plumber come out there and check it. If a toilet needs to be replaced or plumbing needs, I do it on the front end because I don't want calls on the back end. Then everybody says, oh, it's got to be a nightmare to, you know, be managing 20 homes. I can tell you this, I might get 2 phone calls a month, and on 20 homes that me and my partner are managing, maybe 2 phone calls a month. And as long as the homes are in good shape, you don't have to worry about it. And I've been very fortunate. I mean, recently I had to replace a AC last week, and then I had a roof leak. And those were the first 2 calls I had in August. And so I mean, it's not what you think. As long as you take care of it on the front end, screen your tenants, you're fine.
How about you, Chris?
We have, I mean, I basically take calls if there's an issue, because when I rent the property to the person, they're under the assumption that I'm the person that they should go to for those things. So, so they tend to come to me. We do have a kind of a construction foreman that kind of handles a lot of stuff for us. So what I tend to do is if I did a bad job on the front end and did not educate the tenant, which is a huge thing. I mean, just, you got to educate the tenant up front about what their responsibility is with regard to maintaining the home. You got to be very specific with what their responsibilities are so that you don't get a lot of calls. Jimmy, we've got about 20 that we own that are rented. And so I would bear out your number about the same. I get maybe 2 calls a month. Honestly, right now I'm getting calls about neighboring properties that are getting inhabited by people that shouldn't be in there more than I am about our own stuff, which is a different challenge. But anyway, so I tend to put, you know, the tenant and Andy is our foreman. We put them on a text chain, and then Andy handles it. He just goes out, figures out what's going on. He kind of puts his eyes on it, determines, hey, is this something that they should take care of, or is this something that really falls on us? And then, you know, that way I don't really have to get down in the weeds of it too much. It's usually a text or I've never gotten one, knock on wood, late at night. I mean, most of the stuff is, you know, if your tenants are respectful and you do the background up front, you take, and honestly, guys, other than the COVID, which is screwing a lot of things up right now, there is I just had to turn down what I would call 4 5-star tenants on a rental that we rented just about a month ago. And I mean, I'm talking, I've never seen scores this high for rental property. And I had to turn them down, and it makes you go, man, I wish I had another unit to put somebody in. So the renter profile out there right now, and it's been the case for years now, is as strong as it's ever been. Rents are so high. So, you know, don't be afraid, just do the work up front. And like Jimmy said, you can't rent to the first person just because they love it. I mean, you gotta really go through the process and make sure you're getting somebody in there that's going to take care of it and not be a big headache.
How about you, Todd?
Yeah, just like you don't want to work for every buyer or every seller that shows up. You don't go out and show every house that somebody calls. You have to screen them. Prior proper planning prevents poor performance, right? So screen them up front. We have a Google sheet that we text people. It's a pre-lease screening, and it just asks a series of questions. And if their debt to income is not where it needs to be, or if their income isn't where it needs to be, example, we just, you know, thanks for, checking in, but we're going with somebody else. And we probably get 2 calls a month. We have 22 rental homes here in Southern Indiana, and we don't get many calls because, again, we do a lot of the proactive work up front. And now it wasn't that way. I bought 2 duplexes in New Albany because I wanted to be an investor, and I didn't realize we were losing $10,000 a year until year 4. And I'm like, wait a minute, why keep them? I don't want to lose any more money. So we sold them, and those were getting a bunch of phone calls, and they were older units, and we were new to the game. We didn't really understand how it all worked. And then, much like now with the team or your spouse or your kids, whatever the case might be, setting those expectations up front, period, into the story. Like you said, you've got a list of call. You know, we tell our people, hey, don't call us if the heating and air goes out. Here's who you call. Here's the plumber. Here's the electrician. Put them in touch directly, because honestly, if I'm on a beach somewhere, I don't want to take those phone calls. When we get home, we'll just pay the bill. And that's part of it. I mean, you just factor that into your numbers and know that those bills are going to come every once in a while, as long as you set the expectations. And we have a pretty good relationship with our tenants. My wife handles the property management, and we have a really good relationship. I mean, we're friends. 2 of them are agents at Keller. I mean, we know them. I think a relationship goes a long way.
When I don't remember who I was talking with at CREA, but they were saying that they have a lot of rentals, and they have a policy that if they get 6 payments, rental payments on time, then they send a $25 gift card back to their tenant. And this goes a long way, saying that, hey, we appreciate you making this payment on time.
We do $100 in December, $100 off your bill for Christmas.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So the other question for a lot of people, where do you find your properties? I mean, this is not 2008 or 2010. Right now, inventory is extremely low. Where do you find them? Jimmy?
Word of mouth's good for us, because now we have a lot of our contractors that work for us are looking for us too. And so I think the last couple of homes we bought were from our plumber. Actually, it was stuff he was working on, and he gets to talking to the people, and he says, hey, these people want to sell. We did run a couple different websites trying to attract leads too, but I stopped that. I used to go to the courthouse too, but I stopped that because the prices at the courthouse have been really inflated by real estate investment trusts that are coming to town. So anywhere and everywhere. But, you know, I think word of mouth, if you get out there and you let people know that, hey, you can buy homes and buy them quick, blah, 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 the word will get out and you'll get phone calls. I still get phone calls every once in a while from people, and but I don't run any ads on any websites anymore.
Do any of you guys use any social media to attract, to get properties?
Occasional Facebook post, hey, we're flipping house, or we need rentals or stuff like that, but nothing strategic. And for us, it's the same way. Sheriff sale was a big part of the game until everybody got money and everybody started overpaying. So like Warren Buffett says, be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. Look at different strategies. So when we lead generate, this is a secret that I teach in Win with Sellers. Don't tell anybody of my competitors here in Syra, but you guys use this. It's not a big secret. Never go on a listing appointment to list the house. Never. Go on the listing appointment to try to buy it first. And when you think in those terms, your eyes are going to be opened up a little bit different. Now, you might buy 1 out of 100 and list and sell the 99 of them. But by having that mindset, you got a property out of it, right? So we always encourage, go there to see if you can just close on it in a week or 2 and be done, and not have to have them take pictures or get the house ready or worry about showings or blah, 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 blah. Always look at buying first, then wholesaling, and then listing type thing. So that's a big tip that our coach worked with me a couple of years ago on. It's really, really helped us. And word of mouth for us.
How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I was looking at our breakdown. We've utilized as many sources as possible. We have bought several with success on the MLS, but again, you have to realize we're buying fairly, distressed property. So, we're building in, profit and whatnot based on the fact that we're going to do the work, which you can get into trouble doing if you're not strategizing, like we talked about earlier. So what I would say about that is, like, if you're buying a rental, I would be very, very leery of buying a rental that needs a lot of work, because you're going to waste a lot of time. You're going to spend a lot of time getting that thing profitable. And so I would change our paradigm on that at this point, gladly, to find a rental that is a little bit more, kind of ready to go. But yeah, we've bought several off the MLS. We've had several agent calls. So agents will refer us to someone or say, hey, I'm going to be listing this, or that sort of thing. We've had a bunch of those. We've had a few of our contractors, like we bought the house next door to one of the ones that we own because, we just tell our main guy, particularly Andy, which is just like, hey man, anytime you can talk to a neighbor is a good thing. You never know what they're going to be thinking. You never know if they're going to want to sell. So that's worked a little bit as well. And then I've gotten a couple of, like you said, Todd, appointments. I go on an appointment to buy a house and I'm just like, this makes as much sense for me to buy it as for us to put it on the market. And I kind of show them how the win-win works there. And we bought a few that way.
Yeah, as long as you're not taking advantage of them, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. It's absolute has to be a win-win.
I mean, you have to think about it. I mean, some homes are like an investor is going to be the buyer. It just is what it is. Like your chance of you selling it to an owner occupant are very slim. So there's no shame in that. I mean, you know, who else is going to buy it? Otherwise, it's going to continue to rot. So anyway,
So for the newbies, if somebody is interested in buying their first rental, where do they go to find what the going rents are? Do you depend on Zillow rentals or somebody, on website to find out what the going rent is? Where do you guys go? Todd?
We have most of our homes are 2000 to 2010 built, 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car slabs, 13 to 1,500 square foot. And we know that they are going to be between 1,350 to 1,500, just because that is our comp, if you will. And we just base everything off of those, higher or lower, off of those. Zillow, yes. Other than that, I really don't know. I really don't have our MLS they don't play well in the sandbox with rentals. And they don't syndicate and they don't do all that. And I begged them to, but they're not cooperative with that. So we just look elsewhere. And honestly, like a buddy of mine, he just puts it out for as high as he can and then says, well, what are you comfortable with? And you put it out for 1,400 and they agree to 13 when every house on the block is renting for 11. So, that's his strategy. So there's different strategies. I'm eager to hear what you guys do.
Jimmy?
Okay, I'm sorry, I lost you. I was going to Zillow. On Zillow, they do have a nice little tool where you can, like I had a home in this neighborhood, I think it's called like Willow Creek or something off 22, and I had 2 homes I was flipping. I decided to rent one, sell the other. And you can go to Zillow and draw a rectangle kind of like the MLS and say, show me what every home that's rented for in Willow Creek is rented for. And then you can pull up, see whether they're 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and see what they're renting for, so you know the going rate. There's also a site called rentometer.com that you can go to. They'll tell you a little bit. And then, I think also over time, after you own a few, you kind of know what they'll go. It depends on the area, it depends on the bedrooms, the baths, whether it's basement, all that stuff. But there are tools. I think Zillow's not bad, because you can see in your neighborhood what other ones are renting for that compare to yours. Rentometer's pretty good too. I would use that one too.
Chris?
I use MLS quite a bit, and ours is pretty good. But I'm with you guys. I mean, for the most part, you pretty much know what you're going to be getting. I mean, this comes with just doing it every day, and paying attention to the real estate market for a long time serves you very well. So pay attention, get to know the neighborhoods. When you're looking at MLS, look at all the statistics that are available, and just educate yourself, because I rarely look at it anymore. I just kind of know this is what it's going to be, and the familiarity just works.
So we have just a few minutes left for the newbies here who are wanting to get into investment arena. What's your suggestion for them? Where can they go for financing? Jimmy?
Okay, for me, I would say if you want to go to financing, local banks are probably easier to deal with versus a national bank. And so like in Louisville, River City, Republic, banks like that are going to be a little bit more investor friendly. You can, it all depends on how you're doing it, but I would definitely recommend a local bank. There's also a bank out of Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. It's called Century Bank. Everybody gets them confused with Century Mortgage, but Century's real investor friendly too. So certain banks kind of, I guess, are eager to work with investors where others aren't.
Todd?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, don't forget credit unions. 2005, I had zero financial net worth except a paid for $12,000 Tahoe. Dave Ramsey taught me pay it off, pay it off, pay it off. So I said, okay, I want to start flipping with my father-in-law. I went and borrowed $11,000 against my Tahoe to start the flip. And then we just snowballed it from there. So look at anything and everything you have. We are in a huge purge mode in our home. Sell the crap you don't need. That'll put a few grand in your pocket for a down payment. Think of that. Go to a local bank, a West Banco, New Washington State Bank on our side of the river. Jimmy mentioned River City. They're awesome. Any local bank will help you out. But if you look at within your own walls, you might realize that your down payment is sitting right there, and it's easy on Facebook Marketplace or whatever. So
what you're saying is you still have to have some money for down payment, right?
yeah, you probably do. I don't know any bank that would do 100% financing on rental and investment property right now.
Chris, any suggestion for the newbies?
We use Century to enter. So Century Bank, we use them to kind of enter. They're our entry point kind of when we purchase, and they don't want to keep it long. They're not in it for long-term kind of deal. So over time, we will take them out. We've started using Eclipse Bank locally to take them out in terms of just, once we're done renovating and we've got it rented or whatever, it's time to get a more permanent financing situation there. So that's what we've been doing. Jimmy, can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
It might be helpful on this topic. I know, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, whatever you want to call the big secondary market, you're allowed to have, I think 10, is that right, in your personal name as a rental portfolio, where they will give you a great rate, better rate than you're going to get at the local bank, quite frankly. And you said that you're buying these LLC and then you're flipping them into your name. You're buying these personal and then flipping them into LLC. Are you doing that so that you can get that prevailing rate, or are you doing?
Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. Yes, there is a limit on the secondary market of how many you can own. So what I've done is I've wrapped some of my homes up into a commercial loan, so it will count as one versus, like I'm looking on my board right now, and 4, 6, 8. I think there's 12 homes I have wrapped up with Republic right now into one loan, but it allows me to buy a single home at a prevailing rate. So once you get to a certain point, yeah, you're going to get penalized. So you have to tie certain homes up together to get around that.
So those 12 that are in one bundle, those are on the secondary market financing?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, hang on. Yeah.
It's a
So Jimmy,
commercial
quick
loan.
question on that.
Commercial loan.
When you have 12 properties under one umbrella, so to speak, when you make a payment, is it going to every property, or is it going to the lowest one first,
No,
and then goes on?
It goes to every property.
1/12.
Yes.
We lost you, Jimmy.
It goes to 1/12. Every property gets a piece of it, Santosh.
Okay. All right. So just quickly, if you guys can tell us, what was the most expensive, costly experience you guys had that you can share? Chris?
I would kind of building on how do you get started. Not starting soon enough is 1A and 2 and 2A. It is so dumb to think the amount of knowledge that you have as an agent, and you didn't start this sooner. And I'm pointing the big finger at myself. So if you own a home, you own a primary residence, go get a home equity line. I'm not kidding. Go get it today and start figuring out what you're going to buy, and talk to one of us or talk to whoever, try to get some help there. But that would be that's a huge costly malfunction. As poorly as we've done in so many ways, okay, and we've been in kind of crazy scenarios. at times, other times are great. I think getting the mix right and understanding the cost of labor and time, particularly when you're dealing with long-term rentals or short-term rentals, whatever, something that you're going to hold, like I would counsel heavily against buying, unless you're going to do a lot of sweat equity and you got a lot of time on your hands. I would counsel heavily against buying something that needs a lot of work and then holding that property. That's just, we've not had fun with that. So,
Jimmy,
I think
anything costly, a costly mistake?
I think the mistakes people tend to make at the beginning is they don't qualify tenants like they should. And then the other mistakes too is if you're buying rental homes, they'll come in, and I did this in the very beginning where I look at a home and I noticed, it needed this, it needed that, and I didn't really know what this and that cost. And then you go in and say, oh, I can do this kitchen, I can put this tile down and put all this stuff in. It's going to cost me $5,000, and then it costs you 10. And so those were some of the mistakes we made at the beginning. We had somebody, my mentor is a guy named JP Pirtle. Most everybody knows who JP is, but he's one of my best friends. But he actually started out more like my mentor than my best friend. And so, he gave me a form a long time ago. He came to our office, gave it, but it basically was a form to help you identify whether or not it was a good rental. And, do I use the form now? Not really, because I can kind of come in now and I know it enough where I can go off the top of my head and say, okay, windows are going to cost this much, my roof's going to cost this much. But, you got to be prepared. I think my mistakes were I was too eager and not savvy enough to know what I was spending.
Todd, the last question for all of you guys. What advice do you have for the newbies besides having a mentor? What else do you have?
Be the market expert, study the market. And the thing that helps us, it's kind of like scuba diving. Always have your eyes open all around you, right? Always have your eyes open to any opportunity. It's just like, hey, you hear somebody at a restaurant, hey guys, just curious, is that a house you're interested in selling? Like, always look for opportunities. And Chris, Jimmy, Santosh, myself, we are not who we are with our rental portfolios or whatever real estate you want to say because of us. All of us have had external influences, whether it's a mentor, whether it's now Bigger Pockets, you got some HGTV, whatever it's called stuff. You've got some TV shows out there. So always be aware, always be learning based. I would highly recommend that, and pick up the phone or shoot a message to any one of us. We're going to help you. It's just always be eager to learn, a sponge, because once, what is it? A expanded mind can never contract. So once you know it, you can't unknow it, and just keep learning, keep looking for opportunities, ask questions, be the squeaky wheel, and the opportunities will just show up because they are abundant out there. They are abundant. Just, you have to look for them.
Chris?
What was the question?
The question is basically, what advice do you have
Advice.
for
the newbies besides having a mentor?
Yeah. I would build, I know Todd just said this, but you got to know what a deal is. So, the more that you can observe and get in the market, we bought a couple houses because we were already invested in the neighborhood, and we just happened to, my partner and I went walking one day in the neighborhood, just walking, and we found a FSBO sign that had literally the phone number had washed off of the sign. Okay. And so we knocked on the door and got to talking to them, and they wanted to sell, and they had an idea of where they wanted to go and everything. And the price was good. And we bought the house, and that's probably one of the best buys we ever made was just being, just have your RAS oriented toward buying a home, and don't wait. I keep saying it, but I'm telling you guys, I don't know. I don't remember the exact stat, but Gene Rivers did Quantum Leap or whatever two years ago or whatever in Indiana on the sunny side over there, Todd.
Yeah, man.
And he said something that blew my mind about if you bought $100,000 home. I mean, it was so ridiculous, the statistic. I'll have to look it up and send it out. But it just spoke to me that, particularly where we are, where I feel like we've come through a battle in some ways, and we're going to come out, victorious as far as we can tell. As much of a battle as it can be, we're still sitting on crazy equity. Like, I'm sitting here today and I haven't made a dime from the company. Okay. I haven't taken any money out, but we're sitting on great equity, even among the mistakes that we've made. So don't wait.
Jimmy, you got the last word.
Okay, so I'm pulling something up on PVA, and this is to jump in with Todd and Chris about, why not don't wait. And I want to give you an example of what time and investment does. So literally 25 years ago, I bought my second rental home in Heights Point for $80,000. And I remember when I bought that home, I rented it for $700 a month. And I will tell you this, we've used this home in our sales meetings, but here's what time does. That $80,000 home, I remember I was renting for $700 a month. But now my rents for that $80,000 home are $1,150 a month. So fast forward, and that's what rents have gone up, which is a pretty good rate of return when you think about it. And that $80,000 home, I could sell that home in one day for $180,000. So time, builds wealth. And then also think about and by the way, that home, I owned it for 25 years, but I remember, keep in mind, my tenants were paying me. I had one tenant live there 11 years, and she bought a home from me last year, I think it was, but she lived there 11 years. And she basically herself almost paid that home off. But that home's been paid off because I used to take my rent and just apply it all to the principal as much as I could. So that's why Chris and Todd are saying don't wait, because this is one example of what time and investment does. In 25 years, that home's more than doubled, but also in 25 years, that rent's gone up about 40%. So it's a great way to build a little bit of wealth, guys. And one example I always use is, you think about it, it's like the stock market. We're insiders on a company that's going public because we're real estate agents. We get to see it before everybody else. We know the details. We know how to copy it. So we're insiders. Use your inside information to, buy a home. And I think Todd made a great point. Todd, your coach, saying, hey, look at every home as a home you should buy. And when you said that, a light bulb went off on my head, and I thought, how many listing appointments did I go on that I bought a home? And literally I thought of 2 homes that I went on listing appointments, I ended up buying them. And so I think that's a great way to think about it. But I still go back to, guys, time, building wealth, I think, is more important than building income, because wealth you can pass down. And I'll end it like this. Here's a neat story. And I got Christy sitting in here with me, who's one of my rock star agents, and then Brooks and Newbie, that just joined our team. But here's what rental homes do for me that make me happy. One of my LLCs is called MGA Homes. Well, MG stands for Mary Grace and Andrew. That's my 2 kids. Now, the joy I have when I'm off, at St. Rita playing a football game, and then I say, hey, son, hey, we're gonna make a little detour. See that right there? Yeah, what's that, Dad? That's yours one day, son. That home right there will be yours. And I said, now listen, you're gonna have to work for it. You're gonna have to clean it. You're gonna do stuff, but one day that will be yours. And to have my kids invested in my business and my real estate, there's no greater feeling. I mean, there's no greater feeling. And, another great tool, especially if you have kiddos, it's something down the road that you can pass down to them.
So I have one question from Lucy. She says, any part of town that you would recommend for investment?
Stay out of Southern Indiana. There's no deals over here at all. None.
Chris and hey, Todd, I hate to tell you this, but Chris and I are having lunch today, and then we were going to Southern Indiana after this.
Come on over, baby. The water's fine.
Just a,
I'll- I'll-
just a
I'm gonna go
quick
walk in
question.
the streets over there,
If-
man.
Okay,
If
that's
you
a great question. Whoever said if there's any part of town that you would keep your eyes peeled for, or that you would not keep your eyes peeled for. Let me tell you this. It depends on what your criteria is. You know, some people might say, hey, stay out of the West End. You know, there's high crime, there's all this. Well, you know what? I got a friend right now who owns 70 homes in the West End. He Section 8s all of them, and he kills it. I don't own any in the West End. I don't know that market like he does. But I don't think there's one area that's better than another. It depends on what your criteria is and what you're trying to accomplish.
For us, we want every rental home to be 15 minutes from our home. Just kind of a general rule. We've got Jeff, Charlestown, and Sellersburg. That's it. And that's just us, right? I mean, and there are plenty of opportunities. Louisville, Floyd County, whatever the case is. That's our choice. We don't want to. So just like Jimmy said, define what you want, because rental properties, being on a Zoom call, all this stuff is cool. Why are you doing it? What is the legacy that you're leaving is the why we do this. So
Guys, thank you very much for your time. Jimmy, you had something you were...
One more thing, Santosh. You know,
Okay.
Todd says, why are you doing it? Well, you know what? Your why changes over time.
oh yeah.
Your why changes over time, and your why might be, hey, I want to, get some passive income, and I want to build a little bit of wealth. But then 20 years later or 15 years later, your why can change. Your why can change.
Yeah, man.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for giving your time, because time is important here. And next month, we'll try to do a different panel for flips. And maybe some of you may still be back on. So
Good to be here.
thanks
you
again
guys.
for everybody that joined in on today's call. Thank you.
Go Sunnyside.
See you guys.
Later.